Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on one of the most intense dramas you'll ever experience, but hopefully never have to see. What your body does in the minutes, hours, and even weeks after a serious physical injury.
I mean, have you ever really thought about it? You might picture some simple patching up, a little bit of healing, but what's actually happening on the inside is so much bigger than that. It's a full-blown, high-stakes campaign for survival.
And we're talking about a real war here. It's chaotic, it's draining, and sometimes the body's own defenses can actually become the biggest threat. So, to really understand this war, we first have to take a look at what peace looks like.
Before an injury, your body is in this incredible state of balance. The technical term for it is homeostasis, and really it's the foundation of your normal, healthy life. Think of it like the ultimate smart home system for your body. It's your internal thermostat, your pressure gauge, your fluid regulator, all of it working together in perfect, silent harmony. It's basically your body's way of saying, yep, everything is A-okay.
I mean, every single second of every day, your body's making millions of tiny, invisible tweaks to keep your temperature right at that sweet spot, to make sure your oxygen levels are perfect, and to keep your blood pressure steady. It is a constant, silent effort. This is the calm before the storm.
But the moment a major injury hits, bam, that perfect balance is just shattered, your body is thrown into chaos, and it immediately triggers the first phase of its emergency response.
So this timeline here is going to be our roadmap. You can see, right after that injury, the body just plunges into what's called the ebb phase. This is the initial shock. So during this ebb phase, your body goes into pure survival mode. It's kind of like a fortress that's just been attacked. It pulls up the drawbridge and battens down the hatches. The number one goal is just to conserve energy, so the body actually cools down, blood pressure plummets. It's doing everything it can to just survive that initial impact.
Now, if the body makes it through that first shock, it doesn't just, relax. Nope, it does the exact opposite. It mobilizes for a full-scale, all-out war. It transitions into what's known as the flow phase.
And this flow phase, it's really a two-part story. First, you've got the catabolic phase. For about a week, your metabolism just goes through the roof, burning calories like an elite athlete. Your body starts breaking down its own muscle and fat, literally consuming itself to create fuel for the fight. This is why people can lose so much weight after a trauma. But then, if things go well, it shifts into the anabolic phase. This is the rebuilding effort. For the next 2 to several weeks, the body finally starts to restore all those protein and fat stores it burned through.
So you've got to be wondering, right, who's running this whole thing? Who's the command center, coordinating this incredibly complex, body-wide response? Who are the generals in this internal war?
Well, it turns out there are two main command centers. You've got your hormonal system and your immune system, and they have to work together perfectly to manage the whole shebang, from your metabolism to inflammation.
Yeah, you can think of it like this. Hormones like cortisol and adrenaline, they're like the urgent messengers, the dispatches sent across the entire body screaming, "Mobilize energy now!" And at the exact same time, the immune system deploys its ground troops, cells like macrophages that literally eat invaders, and T cells that coordinate the whole attack, right to the front lines to fight infection and clean up the damage.
But, and this is a huge but, what happens when this incredibly powerful, life-saving response becomes too aggressive? What happens when the war effort is so intense that you start getting a lot of friendly fire?
Well, that's when you can get a condition called systemic inflammatory response syndrome, or SIRS for short. This is when the inflammatory response, which is designed to protect one specific area, just spirals out of control and starts affecting the entire body. The defense itself becomes the danger.
Now, the really tricky part for doctors is that they can't see this internal war directly, so they have to act like detectives, looking for clues on the outside. To diagnose SARS, they need to spot at least 2 of the following 4 vital signs going haywire.
First up, temperature. A high fever shows the body's fighting hard for sure. But a temperature that's too low, that can be even scarier. It might mean the body's entire regulatory system is starting to fail.
Second, they check the pulse. A heart rate over 90 beats per minute means the heart is just hammering away, working overtime trying to get blood and oxygen to tissues that are in serious trouble.
Third, breathing. Is it fast? Is it shallow? More than 20 breaths a minute is a huge red flag that the body is desperately trying to suck in more oxygen to fuel a metabolism that's just out of control.
And finally, they look at the blood work, the soldiers themselves. A white blood cell count that's way too high means a massive army has been deployed. But a count that's too low? That can mean your army is gone. You're being overrun.
And all of this really boils down to one single powerful idea. The bigger the injury, the bigger the response. A little paper cut might cause a tiny local skirmish, but a major trauma, that launches a total, body-wide war.
So from the perfect piece of homeostasis, through the initial shock of the ebb phase, and into the absolute chaos of the flow phase, we've seen how our bodies launch this incredible, unbelievable campaign just to survive. But it also shows us just how razor-thin the line is between a life-saving defense and a self-destructive one. Which leaves you with a pretty sobering question, right? What happens when the very programming that's designed to keep us alive is the same thing that pushes us over the edge?